It's great to see you, brother. It's been a while, as we were just saying just before we started the interview. How have you been holding up? It's been a crazy couple of years, man, no matter how you want to look at it.
Yeah, man. I mean, things are good considering. I mean, it's been a weird time to be anybody, right? So musicians included. No, I've been holding up good. I mean, it's been a weird time for us because obviously we are so used to being busy and out and doing things. So the last couple of years have been very bizarre, but we've tried to be productive during that time and kind of do what we can. And now we're kind of seemingly firing things back up. So we're excited to get back at it too.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about this new album and some great Canadian rock. How does it feel, though, that the Sheepdogs have been able to cement a legacy when it comes to Canadian rock? Because we've had so many great past groups from Lighthouse, Guess Who, you can keep going on and on and on, to now the Sheepdogs can be mentioned in that same vein.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm glad you're saying it and not me. I mean, I think everything that we do is always just about, continuing forward and continuing to be, better and doing what we do. I mean, we never at any point in our career wanted to like put our feet up and kind of say like, that's it, we've done it. It's always about, okay, what's next? So yeah, I don't really think too much about that, but I mean, I feel very fortunate that, we've been a band since 2004. Most people know us since about 2011. So it's been solid 10 years of being really kind of in the limelight, which we're very, feel very fortunate about. So we don't take that for granted at all, man. So yeah, I don't try not to make those comparisons. I just feel very fortunate that we get to keep doing what we're doing. And I think this last couple of years I've really, felt very fortunate because of that, that we can kind of take that much time off and everything can be paused and come back and be, welcome back into things. Lots changed in the last couple of years.
Yeah, it has, and one of the things that has happened in especially during the pandemic, which is leading into this album, I know for myself, um, because we were locked up, we couldn't do things the way we wanted to do things. I found myself going back in the day, coming with music, fashion. In fact, like for example, my girl got me this Rolling Stones shirt,
Nice.
and it's actually New York, and it's from 1976. You know,
Sweet.
and a lot of the things that I was either getting off of Amazon when it was coming to T-shirts and stuff, it was all retro shirts. I mean, right down to
Yeah.
kids wouldn't even know what this is, but you
No,
know
I
what it
know. No,
is.
yeah, no, of
You
course.
know, um, it seemed really important for me to go back because it seemed like that was the time that I enjoyed the most. You guys have been able to take the classic look, the classic music, but be able to turn it around to make it what's going on today. How do you combine back in today with today's music?
Well, that's a very tough question to answer. I mean, I think it always just comes from the place that we've never really sought out to be like, we're going to pretend that it's 1973 or something like that. I mean, we're very much aware that it's, I'm doing an interview on Zoom. I'm not like, what is this thing? But I think that we've always just loved, we've loved all things old. I mean, since the beginning, we became friends and started jamming as a band because we were like three people that met and were like, we all like old rock and roll music. We should make a band. And it literally, that's how it started. So it sort of continued that way where it was not necessarily about like we needed to make music that was a certain way. We just wanted to make the music that we liked and sort of hope that other people liked it. And we wanted to like embody the spirit of that music. So, I mean, we all like vintage clothing. I mean, I like mid-century furniture or whatever. It's like, those are just things we like regardless of sort of what we do for a living. And so I guess we come by it honestly. We're not really like out here pretending to be something we're not. I'm not, not pretending I wasn't on like Instagram 2 minutes before we talked or whatever, right? So I think for us, it's all about that. It's about like the essence of the music. It's about the essence of that and doing it honestly, not like sitting down and being like, okay, I want to make a song that sounds like, Led Zeppelin, let's do it. Or I'm going to make a song that sounds like this. It's more so like we love that music. We consume that music. So when it comes to writing and creating what we do, it comes from an honest place. It really like starts with we'll talk about the new record, but like even with the new record, it started with like, do we like this? Okay, let's record it. Really in the way that we jammed it. We have a lot of, the way that we make music really much has that kind of scrutiny against it. So yeah, I think that's why. I mean, it's like, And I know there's a lot of people out there that would certainly say like they don't like us because we sound like that, and why don't we sound modern or whatever. But I mean, it doesn't matter to me, man. We're just doing what we do, and I appreciate the fact that we travel around the world and find like-minded people that are into what we do, and that for me is all that really matters. And the fact that we feel very fortunate to be able to continue doing it too.
Let's get to the new album. What is the new album called, and how's it representing the band today?
Sure. Well, the new album's called Out of Sight. As I was sort of referencing before, it's like the pandemic is weird because we haven't really ever had time off. And so, and not to mention, we haven't really ever had time where we weren't able to be like playing together, whether it's playing live or recording or whatever. So we didn't really know what to do. I mean, we'd make plans and those plans would get canceled because we wouldn't be able to go do stuff. And that happens. I mean, it's still very much like, you know, until we're about to leave in about a couple of weeks to Europe, until I'm like in Europe, I am not gonna like, you know, I'm gonna pretend it may not happen. So, I mean, we just sort of like, what can we do? Because we can't play shows, we can't, you know, even recording was tough to schedule because we schedule a week of time at a studio and then we wouldn't be able to go because there'd be a lockdown, or we were supposed to go to the States and record and we couldn't get across the border and because of the lockdown and stuff. So what we would do is when we could get into the same city, we would book like 3 days at a studio and we'd sit in a circle and we just jam. And when we kind of like come up with something that we'd like, we would hit record and we recorded right there, right when we did it. So we would basically, it was not like super thought out. It wasn't like, let's do 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks in the studio. We'd be like, we have a couple days between something we're doing, or maybe we have a show that was actually happening. So we'd, in that same day, we'd stay in the city and do it. And so that's what we did. And it was like every day was sort of just focusing on one song or two songs and we record it. And so it was all really honest. So what kind of made up that record was not like, you know, 11 or 10 or 11 songs that we set out to record. It was like kind of like 10 or 11 sessions that we sat down and did, and then, you know, became the record. So it was cool. And I think what makes it interesting, you know, retrospectively, is a lot of the themes and stuff, everything we were doing was sort of like, we're making music for what's going to happen next. Because right now we can't, how we do, whether it's putting out music and performing live, we can't really do right now within the pandemic. So we wanted to make music that was like thematic towards the future. So there's not necessarily a bunch of songs about like lockdown and COVID or whatever. It's not really any of that. It's all about like, it's feel good music for the future. I mean, that's kind of what, you know, and that is sort of like tipping its cap to the past. So that's sort of like what we were doing. So it was cool. So there isn't like an amazing story like we locked ourselves away in, you know, a cabin in France and figured it out. It was like, it was just sort of a sort of a bit of a working man's approach, where it was like, let's go back to our origin, where we just got together and jammed music, and let's just do that. And then once we're feeling good about it, let's record it and kind of capture that moment. So that's kind of that's the story.
I think it is an amazing story because I wondered myself as you were telling this, would this album would have happened if it wasn't for COVID and the fact that we were locked away and that you couldn't get into the studios the way you wanted to? Would this album happen the way it would have been? Or it has
No,
been?
not at all. No, and probably this, like, I mean, the challenge we always face too is writing on the road, and we're on the road consistently. I mean, we have like 100 dates on the books for the rest of the year. You know, it's like we're constantly touring. That's how we market our music, how we make money. So yeah, I mean, having time to be at home and writing for you and to be able to like work on demos and send to us and us to send feedback, we don't really get to do that as much as we'd like. So no, it definitely would have. It would have happened in a different way. I mean, pre-COVID, we were supposed to go in to a studio and we had like a set amount of 3 weeks, and then we were immediately going away on tour, and that all fell apart. And then we made an EP in a small window of time that we had in 2020 that we put out, and then we made a live record from when we were finally able to play shows in Toronto. And so everything has sort of been that like, don't overthink it, just do it when you can. So no, of course not. And all this kind of stuff gets overthought. So it's nice to go at it with an approach where you're not setting out to make a record. You're not setting out to like have something done at a specific time. It's just sort of like filling your time. And so again, like learning, so much of music is about, as a musician, is about thinking about that next thing or thinking like several steps ahead. Everything's planned in advance. COVID taught, I think, a lot of people that, you know, you can plan things and they can just go away. And it's tough because there's a lot of things we had planned that went away and will never come to light, whether that's, you know, tours and events and appearances and things we were supposed to do. So instead it was always about like kind of figuring out like what we could do in that moment and be in that moment. and not overthink it. So it's poetic in a little bit of a way, but it was more of just the like, this is what you got to do to figure this out.
Who came up with the cool album cover?
It's our bud Matt Dunlap. He does all of our artwork, has for many years. So yeah, we work with him a lot of our stuff. He's our sort of, we always call him like our vibe consultant, because
I
he's
like
sort of
that.
like, yeah, art director, and he's our photographer. Me, him, and I make all our videos for the band. We have a production company that we do like video stuff. He does all that kind of stuff. So he's our vibe consultant.
Is there any way that vibe is going to transcend to the stage, meaning visually? Because listening to the music and seeing what you guys are doing, I'm seeing lasers, I'm seeing, those graphics in the back kind of thing. Like, I would love to see that. Is there any thought that that's going to maybe happen in some of your live shows or something?
I mean, we've always been pretty big on the production. We've done different things. We did a drive-in theater or drive-in show in Toronto in 2020, and they had a giant video screen that they just wanted to project our logo, but instead we basically took old movies like a drive-in would shoot, and then we put like oil psychedelic stuff over it. So
Yeah.
we did stuff like that. So that was totally like that kind of thing. I mean, I like really bringing the production. I mean, lasers would be maybe, I don't know. I mean, we've joked about maybe doing a tour where we just play planetariums, like old school style, stuff like that, which would be pretty great. But I
You
don't know how
got to
many
do it, man. You have to do it.
planetariums there are. I don't know how many there are. But yeah, we talked about that. No, we like to do it. We like to bring it a bit and definitely like have it. I mean, I'm sure you've seen, but we have this big marquee sign that I had built that I made it so that it could break into a bunch of pieces so we can actually fly with it. So when we go and fly places, we can set up this glowing like marquee light bulb sign. So yeah, I love that stuff, man. It's fun. I mean, I think whether you're talking about rock music or like EDM, I mean, it's all about the experience. Experience is
Yes.
what we've been missing this entire. We took for granted the experience of being in a room and having a shared experience with a group of people. And rock concerts and EDM concerts are no different. It's like you want to make that experience auditory, you want to make that visual, you want to make that, whatever. It's like you're taking in all those things with your senses. And so I think to me, it's always been important to, within budget, bring in as much as you can visually, because it looks cool in pictures, looks cool on like the internet, but it also, like, for the people there, it's like that one extra piece that ties, like you said, it ties into the music, it ties into the vibe. So that's important for sure.
You talked about Europe. What about Canadian tour? What about hitting some of the big cities here? And of course, coming back to Toronto.
Yeah, no, for sure. We've announced a bunch of dates. We have a 20-date European tour that starts next month, but this fall we have a tour that runs from the middle of September to the end of January. There's 49 dates announced now, but there's more that we're announcing. So a bunch of those, it's all over North America, but we're going all across Canada. So Toronto, we got Massey Hall on.
Yeah.
I think it's. Let me look. Maybe I should have these numbers in front of me or my head, right? I should know these. Massey Hall is on October 13th. So
Nice.
that's Massey Hall. We're going all across Canada. We're going pretty well everywhere. All over the place, all over the states. So I mean, that's what we do. I mean, we're so excited to get back to it. We just came back from a tour in January in the UK, which was amazing. Getting back and just the energy of being back in another country, being back in a room full of people. Because at that point, even then, you couldn't really have full capacity concerts. I don't think in Toronto. Maybe you could. I can't remember, but it was amazing, and we're so excited to do that. I mean, that's for us, like, so making the music and then going and playing it, and it gets its own life when you play it, and you have that feedback from people singing songs back to you and cheering, and then the energy that's all there, like I said, the shared experience. So we're excited about that. So like I said, I think we have about close on the books, not all of them are announced, around like 100 shows
Nice.
between now and the end of the year. So we're going to be busy, and it's great. I'm excited.
And I think I saw too. There's new merch, isn't there?
There's new merch, and we always have new merch. That's all to do. The pre-order for Outta Sight is up right now because it comes out June 3rd. So we have shirts, and we have a bomber jacket, like a sort of varsity jacket style thing, and we're always having fun with that. And then when we go on tour, we like up the ante even more and bring a whole bunch of stuff. So I think the merch thing is fun. It's, again, like talking about Matt, who does our artwork. We have a lot of fun coming up with different things that can go along with it. Because I mean, it's a vibe, you know. If you're into this music, it's a vibe. Like you said, people like vintage shirts. We try to make, you know, shirts that have that vibe as well.
You know, man, I still remember several years ago when I had my show on Rogers on the mic with Rudy Blair, and you guys were on it on the first season. I remember doing the video recording where my camera guy was doing it old school, where he walked backwards and we were walking through the city. It was windy, but it was so much fun to do that. I miss doing interviews like that. I was so happy to do with you guys. And look at what's going on now. Like I said, man, a staple point in Canadian rock. Congratulations on what you guys have done with your legacy, with Canadian rock legacy, and of course with the new music, man. Congratulations on all this. I'm definitely looking forward to the tour and you guys coming back to Toronto for Massey Hall. People better pick up tickets fast because I know you guys sell out just like that, man. Congrats.
Yeah, it's going quick. Well, thanks, man. And again, I really appreciate all the support over the years. It's funny how you develop these relationships with people, you know, that you see every year or so and chat. So I do really appreciate it, man. I'm glad to studio's looking nice. Looks like you're doing good.
I'm doing my best, man.
Yeah.
Thanks again.
Cheers, man. Take care.